أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بنفسي أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل فرجهم قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we praise him, and we praise Allah Khalik, the creator. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the creator who gave us life to live. We send peace and blessings on Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the Ahl Bayt, Masameen and Tayyideen of the Ahl Bayt. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for taqwa, that's consciousness of him. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the mu'mineen, the mu'minat for the sins and the transgressions we made in the past. And inshallah, we ask Allah to, unfortunately, we don't want to make no sins going forward, but just probably if we do, we ask Allah to, help us to forgive us the past, but help us not to go forward in the way of sin, in the way of transgression. Just because, because one of the reasons is we just want to be with Allah. And every time we do a sin, it just pushes us back from the goal that we set forward in our life. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and forgive us on this beautiful Jummah Friday and everything. And alhamdulillah, I'm grateful to Allah for the opportunity to give khutbah to you. Last time we had talked about Zainab Kubra. And I realized there are a lot of new Muslims in the house, maybe not as many today. And I was like, talking about Zainab and women and the power and the structure of women going forward, being strong. It's good, but if we don't understand the history of Karbala and what happened to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, then it's like kind of out of context. And so I said, I kind of had to speed through to find out how do you get to the context. But one of the things I found that's important is that when you give a talk, I sometimes realize that one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, is obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the tawheed and the oneness of Allah. I mean, Allah is one. That's the foundation of this religion. Unfortunately, sometimes people go and they're like, okay, I got this personality, I got that person, I got this, I got that, and they forget la ilaha illallah. The foundation of this religion is there is no God but Allah, the oneness of Allah, not the shirk, not that Allah's over here, not that Allah got a partner, not that Allah got a son, not that Allah's, a chair, or a date, or a monkey or something like that, like they got in India, right? But Allah's one. And it's unicity, he's one. And that's what Tawheed means. Tawheed means the oneness of Allah, not one God. God, tell people all the time, you can believe in one God, but if it ain't Allah, it ain't Islam, right? So we go back to ancient Egypt, they say we believe in the one sun God. That's monotheism. They believe in one God. Or they think this thing right here, this pen is God. That's one God. Islam doesn't believe in one God. We believe in the oneness of Allah. And the oneness of Allah. And how do we know this oneness of Allah? By his communication through Wahi and through revelation, through the prophets, through the Anbiya. But we also realize that the oneness of Allah is very important because Allah wants us to understand his attributes, his sifat, the things that describe him, right? So we have the 99 names, they say, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Now it's interesting because Imam Ali alayhi salam said this. He said, Nahnu asma al-husna. He said, we are the asma al-husna. If you want to see the names of Allah, walk, talk, eat, and sleep, look at the Prophet Muhammad and look at the Ahl Bayt because they are what you see. And so for us as Muslims, as we believe in the oneness of Allah, we should always be trying to connect with the attributes and understand those attributes are within us. And how do we manifest those things in our lives? How do we live the attribute of mercy? How do we live the attribute of adl, justice? How do we live the attributes that make us a human being? Now we're always trying to activate them and get them going. So the one attribute I want to talk about today is sabr. Sabr. Everybody know what sabr is? Patience, right? To be patient. Something I don't got. That's why I like talking about it. Sometimes the best khutbah they say is the one where you talk about, and the first person to hear you talk is yourself. And so I want to talk about patience and understand what it is and how it's seen, because unfortunately, a lot of Muslims, we see sabr and patience through the eyes and through the lens of Westernism. We see it through the eyes of Christianity. If we were Christian before, right? Or Hinduism. If we go through the process, we start to realize that sometimes for me, right? I was raised a Christian. And sometimes I'm going through life and then I start thinking of Islam, but I'm seeing Islam still through the Christian lens. Or I'm seeing Islam through the Judaic lens. or if you're a Hindu, through the Hindu lens. And that's why we got to make sure we see Islam through the lens of Islam, through the lens of Tawheed. Al-Mutabatabaya is one of the best tafsirs of Quran, I believe, ever written, because he uses Quran to do tafsir of Quran. Usually you Quran and you have Hadith. He says, no, the first tafsir and understanding Quran is Quran. Meaning look for the Quran to explain Quran. Then we go to the Hadith. And so I say that because when we look at sabr and patience, right, we have to ask ourselves, what is sabr and what is it not? What is it and what is it not? Okay? So to me, I read sabr is resistance. It's resistance. So if you are in a struggle, sabr is the ability to resist and not go away from your goal. People don't look at it that way. Like, no, I'm patient. Patience means I am fighting and I'm striving to accomplish my goal, or I'm fighting and I'm trying not to do wrong. I'm trying to do what's right, and I'm not going to let nothing deter me. Impatient people defect and go away from their goal. So sabr in Islam is an aspect of resistance. When we look at the lens, are we looking at sabr like, oh, I'm just hanging out? But I'm going to tell you something. I was in my house one day, and I was listening to this comedian. I was in another room. It was funny to me. If y'all don't get the joke, I'll explain it right. Because some of y'all look like y'all pay y'all bills, so y'all wouldn't know this, right? So the comedian asked the guy, he said he got a call from the bill collectors. If you ain't never got a call from the bill collectors, you're doing good. But for me, they called the house. Hey, he said, the guy said, hey, he says, yo, man, when you gonna pay your debt, right? The guy said, man, waiting 7 years. The guy said, don't you think that's being lazy and irresponsible? He said, no, I'm just being patient. Now, for those who don't know, in 7 years, your credit score gets cleared. So the guy was basically saying, I'm not going to pay none of my debt until when? Until I'm not going to pay it all. I'm going to wait 7 years for it to go over. So I thought that was funny, right? Somebody in the house, they didn't think I was here. You don't want to pay your debt. I was like, hey, man, 7 years. That's kind of, like, let it go. But patience sometimes to people is like waiting. I'm just waiting around. It's not being active. Patience can be, oh, man, I'm waiting, I'm waiting for this to happen, I'm waiting for that to happen. No, Islam says patience is you are struggling and you are fighting and you're not going to break. You're hanging in there. You're not letting it go. You're not breaking down. You can look at it. I heard an example of like climbing a mountain, like Mount Everest. So we all on the journey. We all climbing Mount Everest and everything. We going. We get tired. All right, some of y'all look healthy. Y'all making it. Arun making it. You know what I'm saying? You're going. My lungs start breathing hard. I'm like, man, I don't know, man. I can't make it. So I can stop, gather my lungs, or I can say, hey, man, you know what? I'm going back down the hill, man. It ain't working. That means I wasn't patient with the hardship. I wasn't patient with what I had to get through. I gave up. And we don't want to give up because patience means I'm not going to stop. Patience is a revolutionary act, but sometimes we see patience as a passive act. And that's why I said, Islamically, we must look at these things from the point of view of positivity and not in a view of negativity. Or, unfortunately, for some Muslims, patience is an excuse on not to do what's right. Right? I'm using patience as to be a coward. I'm using patience not to do what's right. Say, man, you know what? It was too hard. We can't do it. And we back down. So that's the patience that I want to say that we want to make sure that we understand. And so the first patience that we talked about, climbing that hill, to me, it's like climbing the biggest hill to climb. The hardest hill to climb that we have to have patience in is sin. Making sin. It's like, how you patience in sin? Because sometimes when that waswas come and Shaitan be just talking to you and everything, I mean, he on the left side probably, right? Just hollering at you and everything. And he just going and he's saying do something wrong and Shaitan pushing you to do wrong. And you like, do I do right or do I wrong? That's where patience come in. Nah, man, I'm going to stay patient. I'm going to endure this. Because remember, patience means you're enduring a hardship. If it's not hard, what are you being patient for? If it's not that hard. Patience means like it's bothering you. It's on you. It's causing you headache. It's causing you stress. But you say, you know what though? Alhamdulillah, I'm going to get through this stress. I'm going to pass this stress and I'm going to be successful. So this is what it means to be patient in the time of sin. Meaning that a sin comes, a negativity comes. You say, you know what, Allah? I'm not going to give in. I'm not going back down. I'm going to go forward. And so you have patience in dealing with sin. There are a couple, matter of fact, here, I've never had to do this before, but since we in technology, I have my eyes, make it easier for me, right? Here are a couple of ayat that just kind of highlight Oh, here's a hadith right there. It says, whoever has not equipped himself with the weapon of patience during hardship and calamities of time will be subjugated to a state of weakness and helplessness. Think about that. If you don't got patience, when hard times come, you become weak. So sometimes you ever think why you weak? Because we didn't have the patience to get through it, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here says in Surah in the third surah, ayat 186, assuredly you will be tried in your property and in your persons, and you will hear much wrong from those who were given the scripture before you and the idlers. But if you are patient and guard yourself, then it is a matter of great resolve. So here you go. All these hardships come, right? People talking, why you take Shahada? Why are you Muslim? But you got to resolve to be patient, right? And then we go and we see this. They say, one of the hadith says, stand for truth and be patient, even if it's bitter and inconvenient. So here we see the hadith says, when you're standing for haq, when you're standing for truth, it may be bitter. You may not like it. You may feel bad. People may ridicule you. They talk bad about you. But you do it anyway and you stay strong. This is sabr. Man, they trying to get me to go the other way. I ain't going to do that. I'm going to stand my ground. Stand in your ground. My brother, we was talking the other day about Muharram, and I was talking about the pledge, right? I said, a pledge is la ilaha illallah. So it's like, that's the line. I'm holding the line. The line is la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. If you hold the line, sometimes when you hold that line, what happens? Shaitan come, the people come, they try to knock you off. That's patience. Patience also means you're not going to act a way that's going to take you away from it. So when we look at the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, right? Where was his patience? How did he give us an example of sabr, right? I like Surah Taha. It says Taha, which is one of the names of Prophet Muhammad, right? It says, we did not send this Quran to distress you. That's cold, ain't it? It says Taha, Prophet Muhammad, to the Prophet. We did not send this book down, the Quran down, to this, I forget, the Quran, the book, to distress you. Right. But it was said because the Prophet was vexed more than anybody. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ went through more hardship and trials and tribulations. And why is that the Prophet went through so much? Because the Prophet wanted to see everybody take Shahada. He wanted everybody to become Muslim. He wanted everybody to accept La ilaha illallah. And when they didn't, the Prophet had to endure that. So that calamity, that difficulty and everything the Prophet went through, that in itself, right, was something that he had to have patience with. So it said, Taha, we have not sent it. Yeah, I think it's that, yeah, Allah correct me if I'm wrong, Quran or book or kitab or it. But speaking of the Quran, let's just say, not to distress, because he wanted everybody to come. So the Prophet endured all them people, them Arabs was crazy. They was urinating in the mosque. They was eating date gods and everything. They was doing all that stuff. The Prophet could have ran back up to the hill. Man, I'm done with this. The Prophet had no patience. He said, I'm about to go. And Khadijah, I was chilling. I was up on the hill. Well, I was fasting and nobody was bothering me. He was bringing me food. Why am I coming down? They the age of Jahiliyyah. But the Prophet had patience because that sabr was helping him to have his victory of guiding people to Allah. Then we look at Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali, according to even Shias and Sunnis, people know that he said that he was the rightful caliph. Man kuntu mawla fahada ali mawla. But when it came to Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, if he didn't have patience, he might have gotten and fought and went to war and caused division in Ummah. He didn't do that, did he? He had Ummah, he had patience to say, I'm going to deal with this in a way because the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salam is more important than whatever people think. The Ummah, the wahda, the unity, to bring people together. So Imam Ali had sabr, he had patience. When we look at Hassan, Imam Hassan, when they went, and he went to war against Muawiyah, right? They stabbed him in the leg. He was revolutionary. He was going resistance. And the people didn't want to fight with him. He had to be patient. He's ready to go to war, but the people wasn't ready. The people who loved Ahlul Bayt, they wasn't with him. He had to have sabr. He had patience. And what does he do in his patience? He signs a treaty that sets up Karbala. And when we look at Imam Hussein alayhi salam at Karbala, with all the enemies surrounding him, and we look at Imam Hussein rising up, and we realize that he had to have patience in witnessing the shahadat of his family, the shahadat of Abbas. What patience did Imam Hussein alayhi salam have? That's the patience that gives us it's a beautiful, I'm talking about the next part about fasbirum jamil. What is a beautiful patience? It's sort of to use a beautiful patience, a patience that makes you beautiful. What is that? أقول هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. لا لا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآله وعجل فرجه قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن أتيناك الكفار فسلنا بقونا إن الشنيع وهابتار بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا سنة صلاة خاص إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر كلمة هي وتواصوا بالصبر. Here this ayah in the Quran says to enjoin each other to truth and patience. That means we're enjoining people the truth. So like the Hadith said, right? To stand up for truth, even if it's bitter, it takes patience. When we're having hardships, Allah Quran said, "Wastinu bisabri wa salah," and seek help through patience and prayer. It's interesting because sabr comes before prayer. That's how you get help. And so I look at it and I thought about Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and the sabr and the patience of Yaqub, his father, right? And in the Quran, it says he had a beautiful patience. Like, I know patience is good, but what's a beautiful, like, what makes it a beautiful, like, man, that's beautiful. A patience where it's just beautiful. And some of the people I read, it said a beautiful patience, you don't complain about nothing you're going through. You just don't tell it to the human, to creation, right? So if I got a problem, I'll say, hey, man, I'm going through it. You know what I'm saying? A beautiful patience means that you are able to endure and not complain. You're able to go through it. And for those who know Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf is a beautiful example because he's considered the beautiful prophet, right? I mean, they say he's beautiful, right? I mean, the only thing I can think of is in the Quran, it said the women came and they cut their hands, right? That's the Quran said. I don't know how he looked at they cut their hands, right? They was like, oh my goodness, man, you know. So Yusuf looked handsome. He was beautiful. And I think that's important because his beauty, let's say, also can come from his patience. He was falsely incarcerated, was he not? He said, hey, this is going to happen to him. He said, I didn't do that. They put him incarcerated. He's in jail. He tells the person to go out, right? They still didn't let him out. Finally, he gets out. When he gets out, through all that patience, right? He's not complaining. We don't see nothing to call on him complaining, do we? His father was patient until he came back. He was patient until he was brought back to Yusuf. The reason I say that is Yusuf came out of his incarceration patient, beautiful. His beautiful folk came out beautiful. And he was put in a position of power. So he did his time. His time did not do him. And I say that's important because when we look, we realize that impatience for us, we have to look at ourselves. Where are we impatient at? Are we patient with our sin? Are we patient when we're going through hardship, right? Or do we sometimes, if you like me, you get mad, and let's say your son, like one time I'm driving my son, and he is sitting there, y'all don't know him, so I can talk about him, right? Or so, those who know me, cool. And I'm like, dude, you gonna do something? I'm just grabbing, like, wake up. He like this. Because I'm impatient. I'm like, come on, man, we got to go. I'm trying to wake them up. Let's go. Or you've been with some brothers, you're like, hey, let's do something. Let's resist. And they give up. And you're like, come on, we don't want to give up. We got to go forward. Sometimes when sin is in front of you, you're like, man, I'm going to break down. I'm going to do the sin. You don't want to do the sin. So you got to find a way to have that resistance to stand up. And when you resist, you are victorious. And in that victory, you look good. You look real good. That's why I use Yusuf, right? And when some of the brothers came last time, they said, I was going to talk in the last part of Club about Black August, because I think there's a connection between Black August and patience. So for those who don't know Black August, because some of the people didn't know Karbala, so y'all don't know Black August, just explain it. This is August, right? And for some African Americans, Black August is a time when people who were incarcerated mentioned and remembered the sacrifice of African American people historically, and especially Comrade George Jackson, who was martyred in San Quentin prison. And August 7th, good ringtone, my song. And then you got Jonathan Jackson, who was murdered. But then also throughout August, you have other trials and tribulations that African American people mention and talk about to remember our struggle and our difficulties, what we've been through. And I say that because when you look at the brothers who've been incarcerated, right, and what they've been through, some of them come out and you can look at them like, yo, man, the time did them. They don't look good no more. They don't look right. You know what I'm saying? That's because they were still sneaking around doing all that crazy stuff when they were still incarcerated. Then you got brothers who come out, you're like, hey, man, why you look so good? You was in jail for 25 years. How you look good? That's Yusuf. That's the example of Yusuf, right? Hey, I was patient. I was reading. I was studying. I was thinking. I was praying. That's why you come out looking good, right? Because you're doing something good. So when I look at, you look at like some of the brothers who were incarcerated who were political prisoners, right? Like Herman Bell. He not Muslim, but he had the patience. Met Herman Bell, he's part of New York 3 song. But his energy was just like, I was like, he's calm. He's in control, right? Dr. Matul Shakur, who passed away recently, I met him a couple of times before he passed away in LA, right? Hey, what's going on? Salam alaikum. Like, you can see his energy. He's like, yo, you in jail and locked up and solitary, and look at your beauty. Sekou Dinga, locked up, prisoner. Looking at Sekou, right? These all people participated in Black August and struggle, and you meet them and you talk to them, and they got a beautiful, beautiful energy to them from the South, because they never failed, they never broke. One of the reasons Dr. Matul Shakur was never let out of prison, because he always signed the letters, stiff resistance, and they did not want to accept that. He never gave a man stiff resistance. Stiff resistance, meaning we are resisting oppression. We are resisting the things that have kept us down, but we have to resist with silence. Some people don't got no patience, so they resistance is weak, right? Oh man, them people crazy. Let's go shoot everybody. Let's go kill everybody. What are no patience? Because you're not operating under what the law says how to operate with the patience and the silence. And we look at the brothers and say, yo, man, what gives them that energy? What makes them feel that way? Because we look at Yusuf being incarcerated and he came out a beautiful example. We should look at the brothers and sisters who go in, who come out, as a beautiful example of standing up against the resistance. A lot of them from the temptations and the negativity that pulled them towards that what could have brought them down far. And so I say it because when we look as African Americans, a lot of our beauty is because we done dealt with 400 years of foolishness and oppression and a torture chamber that stripped us from everything. You would think we crazy, well, we probably is a little bit crazy, right? But you would think we crazy than we is. Like I had some people in what do you call that? In Iran, and I would show them movies. Everyone watch Menace to Society, right? So they watch Menace to Society, and they like, hey, so the Iranians, they don't know, they're good brothers, right? Hey, they said, can I ask you a question? They said, why the black people kill each other? That's the first day, like, can't remember why would y'all kill each other? Oh, I don't get that. I don't get that. Then one brother said, Tunisi, he don't even know English. He watched the movie Panther 3 times, I think, in one night. He said, oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, that's what he said, why ain't the Muslims doing that? Why ain't the Muslims in the community feeding the poor and doing the? He said, what's going on? But you look at it because people can witness, and then you try to explain to them what our oppression is and what we've been through. And for the young people now today, hey man, y'all got it more crazy than ever. Y'all got this phone, y'all got this Instagram, and all it is about self-gratification. How many followers can I get? Who like me? Who don't like me and everything, right? And all that stuff is just your ego. Not your ego, it's the ego, it's the knots. So the way we got to do dawah now is a different type of dawah. It's not a dawah of, back in the day when we was doing dawah, hey man, salam alaikum, what's going on? Let's go over here and get some food right now, right? They'd be like, hey, you don't fly. I'm a teacher, so I'll be learning new things. I was like, oh, you see, I meet girls online. I said, you meet girls? Yeah, I just, hey, can I get your DM? I'm like, what is that? It's like, text somebody, oh, yeah, I'm a DM, what's going on? I mean, it's like, you ain't got to have no game. For those who know, game, I'm sorry, for those who know, back in the day, you had that game, yeah, kind of holler at you going on, right? Now it's, I'm going to send some DM and everything. That is horrible, girl. Well, he DM'd me, right? Like, no, you got to be able to talk to somebody. I look at my son and say, you don't talk to nobody? Oh, man, you ain't never get there, bro. You got to talk to somebody. He was like, hey, well, maybe she'll DM me. I'm like, yeah, okay, keep with you. Maybe he'll tell he's being patient. I don't know, right? But he's wait. I mean, that we have to have some type of understanding and understanding the beauty of our struggle and the patience that comes with it. And that patience can make you do something out of line. If we look at a lot of people who've been oppressed, sometimes they break from the ranks and they do things that take them away from Allah and His messenger, regardless of choices. But I say it because we have been blessed that a lot of the African-American brothers who've been political prisoners, who've spoken out for justice, right? Y'all know the CARE? I was talking to people at CARE one time, right? And Islamic Relief, I'm picking on them. Y'all listen to TV land, y'all can take this. I don't care, right? I'm over there driving by the train, it used to be the bus station, but it's gone now. For those ain't from Oakland, Oakland is a hip hop ghost town now. I don't know what happened to it, it's falling apart and we need to rebuild it. But I'm driving under the thing, I see this big old sign. It had none of you Indian, I mean, none against Indians, right? But that little Indian girl sitting there poor, right? She poor, it says help, basically give money to send to India to help the little Indian girl starve. I ain't got nothing wrong with that. But right under that bridge is a bunch of people in tents and encampments and living on the street in Oakland. And you got a sign that says Islamic belief, send money and help the little Indian girl. And you got people who are poor, starving right there. Where are we at? That we bypass all of that and don't see what's going on. Then when it came to political prisoners, I talked to one of the leaders. I said, can I ask you a question? I said, the majority of people incarcerated is really Black people compared to Pakistanis. Nothing against Pakistanis. I ain't saying y'all need to go to jail to be hard or nothing like that. Don't do that, right? But anybody ever been incarcerated, I don't know how many Indo-Pacs is rolling through there. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, they ain't got no Barani up here, man. I'm mad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see that many Pakistanis, Iranians, and other people. African American, Black and brown people are incarcerated more than anybody else. But the Muslim community is spending more time and finances and not taking those people in consideration. That's interesting to me. But then they oppress. I said to them, what about Imam Jamil Al-Amin, H.R. Burke? They ain't never said nothing about H.R. Burke on that. They ain't said nothing about the political prison. And they've been in jail for like 40, some of them 40 years. Rochelle McGee, I think, got out the other day. I think he did 60-something years. Here you got people who've been in jail and they never said nothing. So I asked them, I said, Jamil Al-Amin. Sometimes he call me, collect call. All right, I got to accept this call, right? And you know what Jamil said all the time when he on the phone? First thing, this brother's incarcerated, this H-Rap. He says, hey, my brother, what can I do for you? Right? You ask me what you can do for me. You incarcerated. And he says, what can I do for you? Those are the type of things that when somebody's incarcerated, their patience, they don't break from their resistance. The resistance of the lower self, nor the resistance of other people trying to pull them away from themselves. I ask Allah to help us all that we find sabr in ourselves, and we also encourage, like the ayah said in the Quran, to have patience with each other. And we look at the examples of people who have had patience and the beauty that comes from them. One of the brothers that we all know, and I said when we study his life of patience, especially in the end, is Shaheed Malcolm. Malcolm had patience. Malcolm had a patience up until the day they martyred him. It is said from what I read from multiple people, and actually the movie kind of did it good, when they ran up and they pulled them guns on Malcolm, what did they say Malcolm did? They said he smiled. They said Malcolm smiled. He didn't lose his patience to the end. He smiled. Hey. And when he smiled, right, and they shot him, they said he didn't break down like this, like you get shot off. He said he fell straight back. Now maybe it was impacted with the gun, they blew him back. But the one thing about Malcolm, Malcolm had a sob and a patience for for people. Because if he didn't, he would have stayed in Africa. He came back and was patient through a hardship and through a difficulty and gave his life in that hardship, that patience, that difficulty. We can look at Malcolm as an example. He was incarcerated, he came out, he took a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah blessed him with what? I'm saying this before I end, because I got a couple minutes. I always end it like around 30 minutes. I ain't gonna go too long because it could be talking too much, can be oppressive too. You have somebody talking, you're like, man, why are you talking so long? Stop talking, right? So I ain't gonna oppress you. But I want to think about this from Malcolm. I love Malcolm, and it's Muharram, and we still remember Imam Hussein. And one of the things about Imam Hussein's martyrdom, I asked somebody, he said, he said the Shahada. He's the master of all martyrs. So I'm like, well, hang on, people been martyred after Imam Hussein. Why is he the master of all martyrs? They said because anybody martyred after Imam Hussein, it is though they were at him with him at Karbala. That's a cold thing that you see used with him at Karbala. Imam Hussein. He didn't use martyr. He's giving you a blessing of something you may not even be able to comprehend to be a Karbala. And so we know Imam Jafar al-Sadiq said, Kullu yawmin ashur wa kullu ardin Karbala. Every day is ashur, every land is Karbala. So when we look at Brother Malcolm and his journey, think about this. Malcolm went through that, and I always say like being the veils of light, darkness, the veils of light. He a gangster, hustler, everything. He takes Shahada, and he go to jail. When he in jail, he joined the nation. Now, y'all know, we know that was his understanding of the Islamic point. And, he had to go through a phase, right, of some of that foolishness that was put out. But he accepted it. But Malcolm kept thinking. So from there, he built the nation. And then after he builds the nation, what does Malcolm do? Malcolm leaves and goes to Mecca. Now, when he goes to Mecca, take attention to the mercy and blessing of Allah, right? The rahmah of Allah. He goes to Mecca. Remember correctly in autobiography, he gets to Mecca. He's not allowed in Mecca. Why can't he go to Mecca? Because Malcolm ain't no Muslim. He in the Nation of Islam. So he had to go take Shahada, right? Before they let him in Mecca. So he takes Shahada. Now, when you take Shahada, what does that do to all your sins? Your sins is gone, right? Then after he takes Shahada, his sins is gone. He go to where? Mecca, make Hajj. What happens when you go to Hajj? What will Allah purify you? All your what? All your sins, right? Then after Hajj, he come back and he died a Shaheed. And what happens when you die a Shaheed? All your what is gone? All your sins. Do you see the blessing that Allah gave Brother Malcolm, that he went through a phase of purification? Inshallah, may Allah help us all go through that stage. We all, don't, and let us be patient in our stage. I'm saying to be patient with yourself. Like sometimes you go, they say there's a hadith that says sometimes you're gonna hold your deen and it's like holding a hot coal. You're gonna want to drop it, but you won't. So be patient in your striving. Be patient in your journey. And through that patience, inshallah, Allah will give you victory, make you beautiful, and inshallah, let you come to the paradise and see the Ahl Bayt, inshallah. Inshallah, Allah guide us, forgive us for our sins, draw us to our oneness, or your divine unity. Oh, Allah help us in all our strivings and let us all find patience, our students. Come, Allah.